I'm Hanson Hossein. Welcome to Media Space. Our show focuses on the increasingly busy intersection between media and technology. We talk to creative thinkers on the hot-button issues of our digital age. We want to move well beyond the what of the press release to what's really going on here. Together, we'll find out how communication technology is changing our lives right now and what might come next. In this, our premiere episode, let's begin with a laugh. Ben He has struck internet gold in curating the absurd and the laugh-out-loudable. His hugely popular I Can Has Cheezburger and Fail blog have proven there's money to be made in user-generated humor. But out there on the edge, Ben has also received death threats, and I recently heard his chief operating officer joke about how their company has helped, quote, ruin the internet. So today, with Ben's help, we'll explore the explosion of user-generated content online and its value. We'll also be on the lookout for your questions for Ben. So let's check in briefly with Melissa Wilkes in our Media Space listening room.
Thanks, Hanson. I'm Melissa Wilkes, here with friends of the MCDM in our Media Space listening room. We're here watching the live webcast and the Twitter feed by using hashtag MediaSpace, all one word. So please join in the online conversation and ask Ben a question or two via Twitter. We will see you online and check back with you a little later. Thanks. Back to you, Hanson.
Thanks, Melissa. And Ben, welcome. It's great to see you.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be the first guest.
Yes, absolutely. So I guess we have to start right at the beginning. I Can Has Cheezburger. What does that mean?
So I Can Has Cheezburger is a site that's devoted to the collection of Lolcats, LOL cats. And Lolcats, in its current internet form, came from the quote-unquote depths of the internet, which was 4chan, Something Awful, Fark, where people basically got together spontaneously and said, let's put captions on cat photos and see if we can make it funny.
Well, and even the misspelling of the word, I mean, is this all part of the culture that goes behind this kind of meme?
Yeah, absolutely. The language is actually what we call it LOL speak, LOL speak, and it's basically a amalgamation of texting, LEET, which is the hacker language, and other kind of internet errors that people have made over time.
So this sounds intensely geek. Yeah. So how has it become such a mainstream hit?
So one of the reasons it's become mainstream is that companies like us, the Cheezburger Network, have stepped in and said, let's take this great content that people are producing and find a way to actually bring it to the masses. And we serve as that translation layer between a subculture and the mass media.
Well, that's interesting. So this image, I understand this image was actually sort of, this caption and this image were married in January 2007. And then I think sometime later that year, you kind of had this aha moment where you said, there's something going on here. Let me see how I can sort of clue into that. What was that? When you saw this, how did you sort of have that revelation?
So, we'd like to believe creative people have this aha moment kind of instantaneously. It actually took me 3 tries. So I Can Has Cheezburger, spelled exactly like that, was a site already run by Eric and Carrie, who lived in Hawaii. And they got there because they loved this photo so much that they wanted to create a shrine around it, and people started sending in more content. So with that, when I saw it, I didn't get it the first 2 times I saw it. But by the 3rd time I saw a picture, which I unfortunately can't remember, that I really laughed and I said, oh, I get it. These are cats that are talking. And so that point on, I just wanted to help out Eric and Carrie, kind of get to know them, help out pro bono, and that's when it all started.
And what's amazing is that there's actually a deep history of creating captions for cat photos, I understand, even well beyond the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually found a postcard from a user who had found it at a antique store in Seattle, which was created in 1905. And it was a little kitten in a high chair dressed up, and the kitten asks, in all caps letters, what's for dinner? And today, there are all captions of cats asking for cheeseburgers.
And so you call these memes. I mean, it's part of the sort of the social zeitgeist. In other words, it's sort of you're cresting on a wave here. You've somehow figured out this is the kind of thing that people want to consume and produce for the internet. How do you explain it?
Yeah,
what's
so
at the heart of this?
I think every human being has a deep creative need that they need to kind of express to the world. I think that's why we go out and buy T-shirts that say funny things. That's why we go out and doodle on our sketch pads. Those inherent desires is what's actually being put on the internet. And through tools and through sites and through other people who appreciate what they do, it's encouraging the self-expression.
And this is obviously something that you embrace. It's, I mean, you come from a traditional media background yourself.
That's right, yeah.
I imagine you kind of are quite excited by the fact that people are taking control of their own sort of online and communication destinies here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is kind of an opportunity that's left behind by mass media. So mass media for the last 50 years have controlled kind of what we've seen through magazines, through newspapers, and through television. And what they've said was, hey, look, we decide what you get to see. You tell us by ratings, but we generally control what is and isn't acceptable for people to view. And so when I Can Eat Cheezburger first kind of broke onto the national stage, people said, you know, this is really lowbrow. We're not really interested in this kind of stuff because, come on, how professional is this? And to be honest, people don't care about what's professional, what's not. People care about what's valuable to them. And something as simple as a misspelled caption on a cat photo is valuable to a lot of people.
Let's take a look at some of the video that you have submitted to your site. Do we have some of that, Scott? So you still laugh at this stuff. You look at this all the time.
I do. And I still laugh at this stuff.
So Kitty begging for food.
Yeah, that's part of Lil Speak. Yeah, kitty. And it's basically somehow been trained or has a natural behavior that it says, you know, I should really wave my hands and these humans will come over and give me food because they think I'm cute.
Man, the look of disappointment on that cat's face, incredible.
Oh, this is a classic, yeah. It's just a cat disappearing into the ether and it's found Narnia somewhere.
Something like this.
Yeah.
How many views have you had of an image like this?
So collectively throughout the network, Failblog's our biggest video driver, and we've actually shown almost close to 2 billion views of videos, which puts us in the top 25, I think, video distributors in the world on the internet.
That's incredible. And, you know, a few years ago, you've mentioned this conflict, this tension between traditional media and user-generated content and what people are doing online. A few years ago, it was very hard to actually convince major organizations to be part of this game. And all of a sudden now they're thinking they got to be on YouTube, they got to be on Facebook.
Sure.
And all they're trying to figure out is what does it take to make something go viral? And you seem to be doing it on a daily basis. Is there a secret recipe that we don't know that you know about?
I think to me, what I've learned is that in order for things to go viral, you need a kind of a surprise and a shock factor. And that actually precludes, the nature of virality precludes people from repeating virality over and over again. It is very difficult for you to basically be new, be fresh, and be unexpected over and over again. So instead, what we focus on is quality content on a daily basis. If you come to this site and you enjoy it, you'll come back again. And if you enjoy it the second time, you'll come back for the third time and maybe tell your friends. So that's what we call sustainable virality. So a lot of things that are viral that you see today has a very short shelf life. Even more so because people are trying to find viral and create viral content, and that kind of crowds the marketplace. What we want to do is make sure that there's consistent value day in, day out, which is a foundation of any real business.
So you're basically trying to make your site as sticky as possible. Do most people just navigate to the URL, or do they have other apps that allow them to get access to? Is it shared on Facebook? Is it social? How does it work?
It does take a very big social component because it is shared from person to person, because we don't have an advertising budget. We don't go out and market our sites that way. So we actually rely on the users who love our content to tell one another about it. That is the only method of growth that we know of. So that's, again, very different than mainstream media. But once we've established that distribution channel, that reliable group of people who show up day after day, that allows us to launch new sites left and right.
And you say we.
Yeah.
I mean, so it sounds like there's a team of you who actually go through this stuff on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Can you describe what happens?
Yeah, so basically we receive 10 to 20,000 submissions on any given day of people actually submitting content to us. And we have a group of people who sit there and they filter that content so that they abide by terms of service and that they are appropriate for the different sites that they're submitted to. And they publish them on a daily basis so that the best get on the homepage.
So you actually go through 10 to 20,000 pieces of content a day?
Yeah, I used to go through about 600 a day myself, and then our tools got better and we got more people, and now there's about 45 people at the company.
And you're based here in Seattle?
Yeah, we're in Lower Queen Anne.
This is the oddest place. I mean, why in Seattle and not in LA?
You know, that's kind of a fascinating question. We happen to be this weird bastion of internet meme culture in Seattle. We're pretty much the only ones doing it. And most companies who do content are either based out of New York, San Francisco, or LA. San Francisco purely for the technology side, but LA and New York because they're great producers of content. And I happened to be living here when we bought I Can Eat Cheezburger, so we stayed here, and this is who we are. But Seattle's just as good a place as any.
That's good. Well, I know that this year you were on the cover of Wired magazine, which was quite an accomplishment. Most recently, Wired magazine had a cover issue asking or declaring that the web is dead.
Yeah.
And the argument really was that we're moving away from a browser-dominated world to sort of more apps, and the sense that maybe advertising isn't supporting all the content that we want to sort of put out there. Yeah. So my question for you, you seem to have a very successful ad-based company. Do you sense that tension as well, or is advertising sufficient for you?
So for us, advertising has been very sufficient, but we also have a very low cost basis. One of the reasons why so many traditional media companies have tried user-generated content and not succeeded is that I don't think they really understand what it's like to build communities. They're really great at producing content and using a distributional channel that exists in order to monetize subscriptions and advertising. That's what they're good at. This is a wholly new discipline. And in order for us to actually succeed at this discipline, we need a really separate cost structure. And user-generated content has a lower cost structure than traditional media. That's what's made us profitable. So at a solid business basis, you have to have that foundation. But my problem with applications is that there are an extraction layer on top of the internet. They're trying to make the internet more like a utility and as a pipe, but the internet will fight back. The internet, as a nature of openness, as a nature of an open platform, will continue to thrive because it is open, it is easy, it is cheap, it is virtually free.
So you celebrate the openness of the internet. You want the web browser to continue to be the main conduit into the content that you guys put out there, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the release of IE9, for example, they're trying to make the browser...
Internet Explorer 9.
That's right.
Which is HTML5 based, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And they're trying to do things where applications that reside as a web app can be used almost like a desktop app. They're baking it into the browser. You see Prism, which is actually an application that makes Firefox run like an application on your desktop. So you're seeing people, thousands of people who have never talked to each other, using the web and going, you know, this application thing is really not all that new. Why don't we make the browser more app-friendly? And instead of trying to create applications that are in someone's language in a closed system, why don't we make the open web more like an app?
That's interesting. And so your revenue models are very much ad-based, and it looks like you're also getting out into merchandising and in books as well. Percentage-wise, how does the ad and book market compare to what you bring in terms of advertising for the site?
It's an 80-20 rule. So we generate 80% of our roughly revenues on ads, and then we've got other books, such as our third book that's coming out, the Itty Bitty Book of Kitties. Hopefully that'll be another New York Times bestseller for us.
That's excellent. And so you're going to be promoting that soon, it sounds like, as well.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the road and promoting that for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you've got a multiplicity of sites. You know, the cat sites, the Lolcat sites are probably the most famous, but you have I Has a Hot Dog, and it seems to me that it's really the cats that continue to resonate. Yeah. What is the difference between cats and dogs online?
So I have a hypothesis, and you might have to indulge me a little bit here.
Please.
Yeah, okay. So I'm a dog owner. I'm actually allergic to cats. I've been severely allergic to cats for a long time, but I love cats. When my wife and I go walk our dog, we see other dog owners and we socialize in that way. Dogs tend to be social animals, like extra family social. They go from family to family and you can actually talk to one another. There's a social space for dogs in the real world. With cat owners, they're intrasocial animals, meaning they actually reside in a family with multiple cats and they hang out with each other. You don't see cat owners walking their cats and going out and talking to other people, although that'd be really hilarious to see. So when the internet came along and started connecting other cat owners to each other, it was almost like an underground movement. It was like, hey, I didn't know you had a cat, right? And so people at coworkers would actually, who never realized that each other had cats, would actually end up on I Can Ask Cheezburger.
It's like a big doggy park for cat owners online.
Yeah, I mean, the cats rule the internet.
But the dog stuff's pretty good. I mean, I prefer dogs to cats myself.
Yeah,
so, but the dog, I imagine, I mean, in terms of traffic, does the dog stuff generate quite as much traffic as the
just
cats?
to let you know, no one's watching us right now. They're watching this video. So whatever we say, they're just going to ignore until this video is done. No, but yes, dog owners have those moments that they want to share as well. But they're very different animals. I As a Hot Dog tends to be about dogs, whereas I Can Ask Cheezburger tends to be about the painting of the human emotion and human experience through cats.
Now, I guess your most successful site is Failblog, which really gets at what isn't working or human stupidity, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Can we some of this the best? We have some pretty good stuff up there right now of what constitutes failure. Is the skateboarding one up there?
That was a creek jump.
Oh, creek jump. Okay.
Yeah. Success. Win. And a fail.
That stuff's really simple, though.
It is.
I mean,
it is.
any person could probably capture that, even make it up. And why does this stuff resonate?
You know, this has actually a basis in TV. You know, America's Funniest Home Videos have been doing this for a long period of time. What's really fascinating is that the internet has now connected us directly to others, and it feels more personal. It feels more raw. And what it is that we've put it through the lens of fail, which is slightly more specific than America's Funniest Home Videos. It can't just be funny. It also has to have somebody who's trying to win at something and then fail instead.
Speaking of failure, I mean, one thing that a lot of thinkers say about the internet is that it allows us to fail because we can try things out relatively inexpensively and see if they stick.
Yeah.
This is pretty much your modus operandi, is that you've purchased a number of websites, you create a number of websites, some work, some don't.
Yeah.
What has failure done for you?
Failure is not something that needs to be overcome per se. Failure is the type of stuff that you need to systematically try. Every time you make an experiment or do an experiment, there's a cost of the experiment associated with it. The cheaper you make that failure, the more experiments you'll try, and the more prolific you get at understanding how things work. Once you actually get that down, then you will know more than the next person. That's how you win.
And you actually, the way we came to know you is when you came and spoke at our TEDx Seattle event in April, where people were quite taken with the talk that you gave about your own personal failure when you first started out as an internet entrepreneur. I mean, you mentioned how you actually used to clean offices with your family. Your family had an office cleaning business, and you were determined to step out and do something of your own. So let's hear a little bit of what you had to say at TEDx Seattle.
That was worth more than the $40,000 I spent, right? The discipline that it took, sorry, getting a little choked up. There's nothing harder than wake up in the morning, look at a mirror, and see a failure. There's nothing harder to realize that you've let people down. Let your family down who put money in you. Let your friends down who you hired.
A hugely successful business person, as a funny guy, and this is a side that most people don't really get. I mean, does this still resonate with you even though you have become as successful as you are? Do you still think about that time where that first business of yours didn't quite work out the way you wanted it to work out?
What's fascinating to me about running the Cheezburger Network is that you see many facets of people. Like, we have an entire social network that became a social network by accident, where you kind of get to see the lives of the people who hang out at the site. And one of the traps that the internet has built is that we tend to see people as one-faceted. We tend to see people as a user on a site that does X, when in fact, you and I and everybody else who's watching this are multifaceted people. I may be a guy who runs an internet company by day, but I'm also a husband. I'm also an adopted pet parent, so I actually adopted a dog from the pound. I have family to worry about. There's many things about me that can never be expressed through one interaction online. So it actually is kind of fascinating to me that this video has come to almost define me personally. Is that people are surprised that I had a failure. I'm like, of course, we've all had failures. Just because I'm a person on the internet who does business and you see me through a specific angle doesn't mean that the other parts of me don't exist, right? The other parts of me are what defines me, not necessarily just my job.
And it's interesting because I think when you do look at media coverage of you, even that Wired magazine article, there's been a lot of criticism of both your business model and how you've gone about business. A lot of people, especially in 4chan, would say that you're basically exploiting what other people have done, and all you are is a very clever marketer. How do you deal with those kinds of allegations?
It's fascinating because we don't really even realize what's happening on the internet. You see the three of the most powerful media companies on the internet: Google, Facebook, and Twitter, none of which actually generate their own content. So we actually go on Facebook and we create a status update in which Facebook will use to serve up an ad next to it, which is no different than what we do today, except we go a little further and say, hey guys, upload a photo or upload a video. So what we're doing is leveraging the human desire to express themselves. And the criticism is fascinating to kind of watch, and I almost take a detached view from it and say, what are they really trying to say, and what is it that we're doing that's kind of getting to them? So,
and it's obviously getting to them. I've heard that there are death threats. Are those serious? How seriously do you take them?
Well, I think as a business person, you come to realize that if there's a death threat, you definitely want to take it seriously no matter what. You file a police report and all that. There's a standard procedure for all that stuff. But what I'm doing isn't something that deserves a death threat. So you tend to kind of take it a little bit lighter-hearted after that. You have to step back and say, what am I really doing, right? I'm trying to make people laugh through the work of others. Okay, is everybody happy doing it? Maybe not. Are some people very happy that we're doing this? Yes. All right, this is a job. This is not my life's work. This is not me in my entirety.
This is not your life's work. That's interesting. I mean, you went to journalism school. I went to journalism school.
Yeah.
What do you think your journalism professors would say now about what you've actually created here?
You know, that's a very interesting question. I don't know that they understand exactly what I'd created here. I don't know that it is there. I hope they see it with a sense of joy to some extent, that something has been created, that people do enjoy what it is. But what I do is so far removed from journalism, I don't really know.
But in many ways, you're supplanting journalism. I mean, people are getting something from this that they wouldn't necessarily get from journalism sites, or maybe they're turning away from traditional news organizations and traditional media organizations and getting entertained and to a certain extent informed by some of the media that you put out there as well.
Yeah, actually, what's fascinating is that we run this site called the Daily What. It is actually one of our fastest growing sites, and it is very different than the other properties that we run. It's not user content driven. It's actually editorially driven by a person who's an editor who runs that site. And we're actually kind of dipping our toe into what we call internet culture news. And so maybe we are going to get back into journalism. I don't know.
That's good. All right. Well, we're going to run across to the University of Washington campus now and connect with my colleague, Melissa Wilkes. She's been monitoring the conversation on our live stream channel along with a few others in the comfort of our media space listening room. So, Melissa.
Hi. Great to see you again, Ben, albeit from proxy. It's been a great conversation over there, and I've really appreciated watching and listening to everything you've had to say.
Thank you.
So we've been fielding questions via Twitter, and we do have a few questions we'd like to ask you.
Okay.
Our first question comes from @Amy Rainey, and she would like to ask you, for as intensely successful as the fail meme has become, there's a potential downside of a culture in which we immediately dismiss things as failures. And I personally would like to use the example, there's an example where the photo was taken of a driver using a sponge as his windshield wiper.
Yeah.
And I thought it was extremely innovative, but it was labeled fail.
Yeah.
So the question is, to Ben, what implications do you see emerging from this new fail culture, especially in regard to sort of limiting innovation?
So I think there's a fascinating trend in human history where we try to compress complex subjects and complex emotions down to as small of an entity that we can process as possible. So while the word failure today, in a dictionary sense, represents the word failure that we know, culture, and internet culture particularly, is morphing fail to something a little bit lighter. Right? So there's a famous photo at the Senate hearing of the bank during the financial crisis where this woman is holding up the sign that says fail. And that has a very serious repercussion about what is happening in the economy. Yet on the internet, you look at that photo and go, that's actually kind of funny. That she doesn't quite understand how that word has transformed. And you see the language that we use today versus Shakespearean times. The language that we use tends to be very lighter and almost somewhat cruder compared to what Shakespeare was doing. And I think the word fail will transform itself to have less of a serious connotation than it does today.
I like that. That's a really great take on that, and a great example of the Senate fail. That was too funny. I cracked up when I saw that, actually, and thought of you.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad.
So you've transcended my internet culture. So the next question comes from @MicahSA15, and he wants to know, what's the next big move for the cheeseburger networks?
I think for us, we're going to define, or at least try to define, what internet culture really is. It's something that I've been struggling with for the last probably a year and a half, that we've found ourselves at a distinct cultural identity as the internet users versus mainstream media. So what does internet culture mean, and how does it affect our behavior when it comes to content? Internet culture so far has been all about taking mainstream media, popular culture, and twisting it out of context for remixing news. So is that really what it is? Is that what's going to happen going forward? I'm really keeping a close watch on how we play a role in that as well. But we want to be the definitive internet culture company. So.
All right.
Exciting.
Thanks very much, Melissa. That's great.
Thank
Ben,
you.
well, thank you very much for being here. I found this very enlightening because it's something, user-generated content itself is something that we've really taken very seriously in our program and try to understand at heart what's going on here. So the fact that you're looking to move well beyond sort of traditional media optics here to actually define that culture is hugely important. So we'll definitely keep an eye on the work that you do.
And actually, speaking of taking popular culture and using it out of context, I heard that you just had a baby.
Yes.
Hendrix Rollins?
That's right.
Yeah, so congratulations. I think a lot of change has been in store for you, especially with the show. And so here's a copy.
Oh, that's really wonderful. I mean, I live in Seattle. I have to name it after one of my favorite guitarists
There
of
you
all
go.
time.
Yeah,
So
good, yeah, congratulations.
thank you, man.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Thanks. Well, for a broader perspective, we've asked best-selling author and self-described kick-ass speaker Scott Berkun to share his thoughts on the value of online conversations.
One of the silliest notions we have about media and change is that each new thing is either wonderfully good or horribly bad. The web itself, in the opinion of pundits, will either radically improve the world, like Clay Shirky suggests, or destroy our minds, like Nicholas Carr offers. If you pay attention long enough, you see everything gets cast into these polarized, and while entertaining, mostly useless frameworks. They're fun, they spur debate, but rarely do they progress the conversation. The truth is, all things have some good and some bad in them, and the goodness and badness varies depending on who you are. It's common